One thing that I want to cover on this YouTube channel is the European Referendum. For those who may not know, because we do not really get a sense in the UK of how much our news is reported across the world. I know there's news agents like the BBC that have reporters across the world, but we really don't get an idea here in the UK of how much of our news is actually reported right across the globe. For those who do not know, on June 23rd, the UK voters will go to the polls and vote whether we wish to remain a part of the European Union. Now, as always in these modern times, this has been given one of these silly names. It's almost like a couple's name, like somebody's gone to one of these couple name websites, put in two words and amalgamate it, and comes up with different suggestions, and this is being known. This entire thing, whether you're for or against leaving the European Union, is being called a Brexit. B-R-E-X-I-T. Brexit. Obviously Britain and exit amalgamated together, which I think is really stupid, and to be honest, it to me sounds like either two things. Well, it sounds like two things. It sounds either like a breakfast cereal. Do you want your toasted Brexit? Do you want your sugar-coated Brexit in the morning? Or it actually sounds to me also like a code word for a visit to the bathroom before you leave. So, I'm going for a quick Brexit before I leave for work. It sounds like that to me. Anyway, the European Union. Now, this may sound a little bit surprising to some when I say that I voted yes in the Scottish independence referendum. That's not what's surprising. And you can find me talking about it still on my YouTube channel, including the coverage that I did of that day. Only a little bit locally, because to be honest, due to the rules, strict rules, you're not really allowed to do very much at all, even things on YouTube, unfortunately. But I voted yes in the Scottish independence referendum in 2014. I voted yes for Scotland, in favour of Scotland becoming its own independent country, which obviously sadly did not happen. The vote, due to scare stories and other reasons, which is really not really something is the place to go into in this video. We're not now an independent country, although there is still some talk of another independence referendum. However, it may surprise some people that I actually am wanting for the UK to remain in the European Union. I want Britain to stay as part of the European Union. And there are a few reasons, basic reasons for that. I mean, politics is so complicated. I mean, you can obviously nowadays go to colleges and universities and study for degrees and even doctorates in various aspects of politics. It's so complicated, with financially, population-wise, just relationship-wise, history-wise. Politics is, I said, one of the most complicated subjects in the entire world. It really is amazing how complicated it is, and has been over the thousands of years of what I would kind of almost call modern day politics, kings and queens and all that kind of thing. But anyway, there are a few reasons why I want the UK to remain in the European Union, and I'll discuss them on this video. First of all, relationship wise, and because I know the European Union is not perfect, we've got the migrant crisis, we've got things in Syria, and obviously Russia as well. And to be honest though, in Russia, the Russian thing, I think even Vladimir Putin has got the common sense to realise that going towards any war type scenario with Europe or the rest of the world does not serve any purpose for Russia. It does not really make any sense, and it's a dangerous thing to do. So I'm very much hopeful that even Vladimir Putin has the common sense to realise that's not a road that we need to go down. But apart from that, relationships between countries have been great over the past 50-60 years, and really what is basically the modern European Union, it's been great. And that's one of the reasons why I want us to stay in. because if you mean the European Union came out of, and it's such a complicated thing, but basically what we know as the modern European Union came out of the end of the First and Second World War. And it doesn't take a genius, even if you didn't know that the Second World War came out of the aftermath of the First. You have to look at the dates of the First World War and the Second World War, and you realise there must be something. Basically, the same players in play: Germany, the UK, France, Holland, Italy. You're the same players, actually, basically the major players going forward in the makeup of the Second World War. It's also the same people, same countries, pretty much involved. Well, that were involved in really in both wars. And you don't need to be a genius to work out. Well, there must be something in the aftermath of the First World War for the Second World War to happen so closely after the first one. And that's obviously the Second World War came out of the aftermath of the first, because some people were not happy with what happened after the Great War, the war that was supposed to end all wars. Obviously it didn't, and just about 20 years later, if around about that, we saw the kind of incline to what happened in the Second World War. But since the Second World War, because of things like the European Union, the countries are more talkative, they're more cooperative than ever before. There is no countries that are really in fear of being invaded. I mean, one of the straws that broke the camel's back was the invasion of Poland by Germany. That one of the last things that really kicked off the Second World War. And Poland doesn't need to be these days. Poland does not need to worry about being invaded by Germany. Portugal doesn't need to be worried about Spain. Italy doesn't need to be worried about Greece, or the European countries. They work together. They even got the United Nations forces. Obviously, each country has its own armed forces, but each country does not stand military on their borders in case of invasion from other European countries. The relationship has grown, has become one of there's not complete ease between all of the countries. Again, politics is so complicated, and again, it's like any kind of relationship. They're not always going to be people that get on. There's always going to be countries or politicians that are involved in countries. There's always going to be ones that don't get involved, and there's always going to be slightly uneasy relationships. But the relationships have been stable over the last 50, 60 years, thanks in large part to the European Union, which is one of the reasons why I think we should remain. And talking about relationships, and this is going to sound a little bit idealist, but acceptance is something that has been discussed heavily over really this past, I would say, 16 years, since the turn of the millennium. Inequality, equality, all the different so-called subsections of society, whether it be race, colour, creed, religion, whatever, that's been, certainly over the last couple of years, it's been one of the hot topics around the world. One of the topics of conversation that has happened all across the world. In the European Union, in my opinion, it's kind of helping that. And again, this might sound idealistic. This might sound kind of a Kevin hippie-ish peace man kind of thing. But the European Union, when it comes to these different countries, they're all meeting, they're all getting together, and it is gaining acceptance, it's gaining understanding of different societies. And I'm certainly not against different countries having their own societal ways, their own religious ways. I'm pretty much welcoming of everybody, as long as you're not, of course, you're not hurting people. You're not treating people unequal because of minor differences, because of differences like colour, skin, gender, etc. But you know, all of these meetings and all of the European Union, the different societies, different groups, different countries, they're all getting together and learning and understanding about each other. Because the European Union, this is one of the great things about the European Union, it is not just some kind of focus group or some kind of minor group that's been set up by some charitable cause, or it's not some some group. I completely forgotten the word now, but it's not just a group that has been set up just trying and get people's view. It's a very much an official organisation, and the leaders of different countries meet up with each other. It's not a case of David Cameron or Angela Merkel sits in their cabinet and whose turn is it to bear the brunt of going to the European Union meetings this time? Oh, who's the lowest secretary or member of parliament that we've got that we can send? Who can we lumber with this this kind of duty? Who can we get out of our hair for a while? It's not that. It's Angela Merkel and David Cameron, all the leaders of France and Italy, all these countries, they all go to these meetings. So they do actually talk to each other. It encourages them to talk to each other, and not every time it happens, but sometimes there are genuine pieces of business done. I know there's still ongoing negotiations with things like global warming, which is a continued thing, and that, again, there's so many things, so many complicated matters as part of politics. But sometimes, quite often, there is genuine work done, there is genuine agreements reached, there is genuine targets either laid down, met, or there's some kind of positive movement in the political scene in Europe when the European Union have their meetings. So it is a real case of the leaders not being apart from each other. We'll just send Johnny Smith, we'll just send Peter Wright, we'll just send these guys to the European Union. I'm really not wanting to go. It's a really important thing that the European leaders, they go to it, they sit down, they don't. I know sometimes some of the meetings it is just a press relations opportunity, and sometimes they do just drink their champagne and the lobster and caviar. But there are a few times where you do get. Certainly, I have felt over the last few years there have been a couple of occasions where it does seem that business is done. There is genuine meetings, whether it be building relationships with countries or making agreements, whether it be business or otherwise, which again, like things like global warming or pollution, or whatever it is that recycling, whatever. Sometimes there is genuine things done. Again, it's not every time, but that's one of the good things that sometimes there are genuine things actually happen and genuinely positive step forwards made at these meetings. And talking about business and things like that as well, I do feel that it will hurt businesses if we leave the European Union as well. I'm not completely qualified. I don't know exactly everything about businesses and imports and exports and things like that, but I do know that for exporting to various countries, you do need obviously licenses, you do need different documentation, and I fear that UK businesses might actually suffer if we leave the European Union. I fear that there may be a lot of added costs to UK businesses if they're exporting or importing products, goods or services. I really do fear that because there will be a lot of extra steps. Right now in the European Union, I'm sure there's a lot less kind of red tape that companies have to actually deal with. I mean, we get it all the time. It's one of the things that you always see on one of these kind of the road traffic police type programs. At least one episode, or many of them, or sometimes more, they deal with a foreign driver. They deal with a heavy goods vehicle driver, either trying to find directions somewhere, trying to find where they're supposed to go, or sometimes unfortunately in an accident, or for whatever reason. But it's very simple right now for these people to come over. I mean, it's constant stream in and out of the UK. If you go to somewhere like Dover and Cali, you see it, constantly in and out every moment. There's lorries, there's cars, there's people, constantly. And I do feel, and I do fear that there'll be a lot more red tape, maybe more licenses, more documentation needed, a lot of added expenses. And I don't think all businesses, and I know UK is not a manufacturing powerhouse like it used to be, and we're certainly in changing times when it comes to what businesses can survive in the UK right now. But some of the companies that actually import or export things, they're quite small, and I do fear that some of the businesses may be forced to shut, because I do fear that there'll be a lot more cost, because they'll have to get. I mean, to be honest, I feel. I'm not saying that countries in the European Union would stop accepting UK business, but I mean, if it could work out, they could just get a kind of European Union license. That would be great. But I do fear that would, they would have to have maybe licenses for different vehicles or different products, and like a license for each product, and they need, let's say, right now they can maybe just just do their business with the European Union. But if Britain leaves the European Union, they need to get all sorts of licenses, all sorts of documentation, which would be ridiculously expensive. It would be added more expense. And also when it comes to movement of people as well, I mean, Europe is obviously one of the holiday hotspots for UK holiday makers as well. Various destinations, Mallorca, Benidorm, Barcelona for Spain, and then there's also places like Paris, Rome, Berlin. There's millions, genuinely millions of UK residents take their holidays right across Europe, in the various European countries, and I fear that Joe Blogs in the street would have to pay out more as well. I think we would have to pay more as well, because we'd probably have to get a visa. Right now, if you're going to the United States, if you go to the United States, you need visa, you need some more, you need documentation, and I do fear that we would possibly be a point where, again, it may end up being just like business. We may end up just with a kind of European visa, which again would still be quite expensive. But I fear that each country, because we're outside the European Union, they may need each individual license. So, saying if you're travelling a bit, so you're going to down through France to Italy, maybe across to Spain, you may need visas for each of these countries. And I feel that, and I fear that actually as well, some European travel companies, they may put up their prices for non-European. And I know some places certainly apparently do it. I've seen on these travel programs as well. I feel that travel companies in Europe may charge more to UK customers, because we are seen as a bit of a wealthy, affluent country, and I feel that those companies, they may charge the UK travel companies more, and the UK travel companies will obviously have to pass on these added expenses to their customers. And so I do feel that things like holidays and even travel to Europe may be prohibitive, of not just businesses but people as well. And we've already seen a drop of tourists in the UK due to the financial climate. I fear that if people it works both ways as well. If people from Europe, different European countries want to come over to the UK because it's outside the European Union, they would need a visa. They would certainly need documentation, probably. Most likely, in my opinion, most likely they would need visas and documentation to come over to the UK, which would be added more expense to them. So if they're thinking, okay, what about the UK? Say they're based again in Spain. I'm using these same countries for example. Say they're a Spanish family. They're thinking about where to go for their summer vacation. Summer holiday. They want to go to maybe either the UK or maybe Germany or maybe France. Well, where could we go? We really want to go to the UK. But UK, we need visas, we need this documentation, we need that documentation, and it adds on, because there is, and I'm sure it's happened to a lot of people, that there is, sometimes the cost is just a little bit too high, where you get the point where, no, I would love to go, but the price is just slightly too high, and it might be, they will not need that documentation to go to France. So, okay, we'll go to France. It's a lot better for our finances. We'll go to France. We'd love to go to the UK, but the price of visas and maybe even price of flights with being outside of Europe, all these extra costs I fear that may go up. They'll go to France. They won't go to the UK for holidays. So it'll affect businesses in the UK, tourism, hotels, even tourist attractions, cafes, restaurants, etc. It'll have a bit of a domino effect as well. So that's one of the things I fear as well, that there'll be a lot of extra costs in travel, whether it be tourist purposes, business purposes, whatever. I fear that we'll get. And plus also, I have to question about travel. Right now we've got a border agency, and that will the UK taxpayer, if we go out of the UK, would the UK taxpayer be asked to actually take the cost of setting up any new department when it comes to handling these visas? Somebody's going to have to give out visas. Somebody's going to have to approve these people to travel to the UK. Somebody's going to have to, deal with all this. It would cost millions to set up a new department, or a new department within the Border Protection Agency, or whatever it is, whatever department, already pre-existing department they can attach it to. I honestly fear that it would cost the taxpayer a lot of money, because they would have to, the UK government would have to have some kind of way of keeping tabs on who comes into the country and who's got the visa. And I know a lot of it's done at airports with the border security, border agents who do a great job, as many of them do around the world. But if you're talking about we're not in the European Union, I would guarantee people would need some kind of documentation, and it would cost a lot more to even just to issue, or to even just to deal with any applications for any such visas that may be required from European Union member countries to the UK if we are out of the European Union. Even that would cost millions of pounds. So I do fear finances of business and tourism, and moving in and out of the UK and European countries. I fear, how much is that going to cost people, certainly people in the UK, because it's the UK taxpayers that would have to foot the bill. Also, I want to talk finally about the EU. Now, as I said, the EU is not perfect. It's no way perfect. I said there's migrant things, there's things with Syria, there's things with Russia. But, if the UK is out with the European Union, then I fear that, that really we would not have. David Cameron came out and said, and it was kind of a turncoat thing, to be honest. David Cameron, he and the Conservative Party, who are the UK government party right now, in Westminster, he was pretty much against being in Europe until recently, until magically he was able to get a deal and suddenly he's for it. But he was talking about a special status that he is supposedly secured for the UK within the European Union. The thing is, though, in my opinion, the days of the so-called British Empire are long, long gone. They're long gone. Britain does not have the influence around the world that we do now. And if we cut ourselves off, went away from the European Union, I think that a lot of other countries like France and Germany and Italy and so many more, they would all get together in the European Union and they'd talk about things, and basically they would, I'm sure that whoever's in government, because I know David Cameron's standing down from the position in a while, he doesn't want to seek another term, but it's a couple of years yet, but I feel that certainly the countries like Germany and France, they would, although again, Britain would certainly chime in or chip in with advice. And, we think you should do this. We shouldn't think you should do that. Other countries like other European Union countries would basically hear us and then go, would hear us and probably ignore what we're saying. They'd basically ignore it. It'd be like a stranger coming up to you in the street and saying, "Oh, how do you live your life? Well, you should do this. You should do that. Why don't you go ahead and do this? Or you should wear this. You should eat that. You should decorate your house like this." You're going to ignore them because they're just a stranger. Or it's like maybe a husband leaving a wife and they've got kids. The husband leaves. The husband disappears for a while. The husband comes back after maybe quite a considerable period away, and starts complaining about the way that the wife is running the house, looking after the kids. The wife's going to ignore him because the husband chose to leave. The husband went away. He chose to leave. He's pretty much right to really, say how things should be run. He's lost that right. He walked away. He left. He doesn't have the right to say how things should be run. And just like that stranger in the street, that person in the street, if a stranger came up and said you should do this, you should do that, you're going to ignore them, which is exactly what France, Germany, etc. will be like. But if we are a family member, if we are part of the European Union, much like if it was a family member came up to you in the street or came to your house and this is the way you live your life. How about this? How about that? How about trying this? How about doing that? You're more likely to listen to them. If it's a family member, you're more likely to listen to them because they've obviously been around you and your situation for many, many years. They know about your situation. They know what's troubling you. They may see things that you don't see, but you know that you can trust them. It doesn't work for every family, it doesn't work for every family member, but if they're a family member that you know, that you feel you can trust, you may be more inclined to listen to them and take their advice on board. And if you don't follow all of their advice, maybe you can make an agreement. Okay, well, I don't quite want to do that. How about we do this? Make compromise. An agreement, a compromise, so you do change things. And that is one of the things I feel that why Britain should be in the European Union, because we should be part of the discussion. Because France, Germany, Sweden, Norway, all the European countries, they'll make decisions. They'll take the European Union off in whatever direction it goes off in the next few years. And Britain would have to live with that. Again, we can maybe chip in with, we think you should do this, we think you should do that. We'll end up like Scrooge in A Christmas Carol, outside the window, looking in as the rest of the European Union family sit down to Christmas dinner in front of their open log fire. That's what'll happen. because that's guarantee will happen. The rest of the European Union will just ignore any of views, our opinions. Okay, maybe a few will listen because of the relationship in past years. But as politicians move on, politicians change every few years. As different politicians leave, who say who do not maybe perhaps know the former UK representatives, they like almost like generations of a family. Some families may be really tight. They may be really good friends for a couple of generations, but perhaps as the generations goes off, older generations die off, other generations move away. Maybe the families can split apart. They can go their separate ways and not talk to each other. Sometimes maybe not never again. And that's what I fear that it would be for when it comes to the politics, as different members of staff, different politicians lead the different countries, because quite often you get a change in leadership in European countries, obviously, as you do across the world. Different leaders may come in and may ignore David Camerons, the Tony Blairs of this world. I'm not saying these guys have got the right idea, because they don't, but generally the European Union will go off and make discussions, and I honestly feel that it would be a hell of a lot better if the European Union have the UK as part of the discussion. So because we cut ourselves off, we're not doing what we really should be doing. Again, maybe more idealistic, moving towards no wars and equality and everything like that. I honestly think Britain should, again, there's no British Empire that it used to be, but we really need to be a part of the discussion, be a part of moving the European Union forward. It's certainly a time, I think, in the world where we need to be united rather than divided, and we do need to be a part of the process, because we do really just need to be part of the process, part of the discussions, part of working things out, rather than being outside outside in the cold, looking in. We need to place ourselves apart. The only way that we're going to really have basically any effect in Europe, and any positive, stand for any positive change, I think, is be part of the discussions. We need to be a part of the group, so we can all decide what is better for the world, what is better, what steps we need to take to improve things, and work together to, again, there's still loads of poverty, lots of inequality and everything like that. It's better off if we are all a part of working together in these type of decisions, of what help we can give, where it's needed, what is needed. It's a bit better to be a complete part of those discussions